Good morning, welcome to my writing life. Do you ever start making progress on your goals? You're really excited about it, but then suddenly you find yourself undoing all of your good work and having run in the complete wrong direction for a while? Yeah. Today, we're gonna talk about self-sabotage. Let's get to it. Self-sabotage is remarkably common in the publishing industry, and honestly, life in general. I couldn't find an exact statistic, but a lot of the articles I read made it sound like pretty much everyone faces it at one point or another. So today I'm gonna share with you the top 3 ways that I self-sabotage and my top 5 solutions for how you can beat it in your own life. Number 1, I call my shot. Calling my shot works like this. I say that I'm a writer. I get hyper-focused on that issue. That means that I end up prioritizing all of my time towards that one singular goal. Obviously, this is not sustainable. Framing my life in terms of that one important thing is actually a cognitive distortion called black and white thinking. It's a case of going from one extreme solution or identification to the far other, rather than pursuing balance and compromise. It's unrealistic. You can't isolate your life into these tiny little components and then pursue any one of them wholeheartedly. Other aspects of your life are going to kick in. My kids need me, my husband or family or whatever. Then I think, screw this, it's not worth it. I don't want to be a writer anymore. I love my kids and I love my husband and I like my life. I throw the whole thing out the window and stop wanting to be a writer entirely and just pursue life as a domestic goddess who happens to run her home particularly well. It leads me to undermine my efforts in that direction because I feel like I'm walking too far away from the other things that I care about. And this actually leads to the second biggest way that I self-sabotage. Exaggeration or overgeneralization. This is when you take one aspect of who you are or one accomplishment that you've gained and you apply it broadly across everything you've ever done. Fail that class in college, you are a failure. Didn't finish your chapter this week, you're never gonna finish the book. These are overgeneralizations, and the reality is one mistake does not equal everything about who you are or what you're doing with your career or anything else in life. Your brain will actually end up doing this with your victories as well. Finish that chapter in a couple of hours, you're gonna finish that book in just a couple of days. One failure makes you a failure. One success makes you the most important person in the room, no matter what room you're walking into. In case you couldn't tell from my sarcasm, no, you're not. In either circumstance, it makes you an arrogant jerk who thinks you are either the super best at whatever it is that you're doing or the absolute best at being really awful, both of which are arrogance. You're on the same level as everyone else. Top way I self-sabotage, number 3, I run when it starts getting good. 2 years ago, I wrote a weekly blog of short stories. On my last one, I got a couple hundred views and a couple dozen comments within the first 24 hours. Might not sound like much, but for such a young blog, those were pretty darn good numbers. So naturally, I did the most responsible thing. Immediately went out and found someone to belittle that accomplishment, took their word as truth, and immediately shut down my blog. 2 weeks ago, I quit YouTube. Obviously, it didn't stick. I'm in YouTube, but go with me on this. I made a video for a playlist, got me a lot of views in rapid succession. It scared me that suddenly people could see me. So I immediately found someone who would benefit from my quitting the channel. I implied that maybe I was letting my priorities slip with them. Should I quit my channel? Blah, 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 blah. Quitting didn't stick this time. I am now able to better recognize when I am self-sabotaging. But that all comes from a fear of success and the social consequences that come with succeeding at a thing. Now that you're all depressed, let's talk about my top 5 ways that I now manage my self-sabotage and I'm starting to succeed and make progress in my life. Number 1, I focus on values instead of SMART goals. Now, I know a lot of advice out there all about SMART goals, specific, measurable, etc., etc. They are awesome, and I totally respect that. If you are a person who benefits from this, do it, by all means. There is no advice out there on earth that is beneficial for absolutely everybody, and I fall into the category of people who really do not benefit from making SMART goals. I find it an open invitation to start contemplating my life in terms of black and white thinking. Whereas, if I contemplate my values, it's very easy for me to keep moving forward in what I'm doing. I don't need to set myself a deadline for when X chapter is due. Instead of setting a goal about it, it makes so much more sense for me to constantly remind myself why I value storytelling, shared experience, and community that comes as a result. I like teaching my kids hard truths with silly characters. I value making characters who are capable of doing things that I can't yet show my kids by example because I'm just not there yet. Storytelling is incredible and it breeds hope, community, and friendship, and I really want to go right now. Which is oddly exactly my point. Strategy number 2 for battling self-sabotage: recognize where the heck did that come from. It's always helpful to look back at the root of an issue in your life and figure out where it started. What successes have you had? What were the consequences? What successes did you almost have? And what was your exit strategy back then? We all have ways that success has been beneficial and harmful to us. For example, I have been straight up punished for succeeding at things, and I'm not the only one. I got a job. My parents took away my paycheck. I trained my dog some awesome tricks. They got rid of her. Many of us have similar experiences and stories in which having a victory of any kind ended up hurting in some way. Picture the kid who's really good at math. His peers are intimidated, jealous. They decide it is their responsibility now to make middle school a living hell for him. Or that woman who's up for a promotion at work. If she gets it, she knows that the man who works in the cubicle next to her is gonna get resentful and petulant. The experiences we have between success and community, they create the desire for self-sabotage. And I know sometimes self-reflection is just no fun, but the truth is understanding where our bad habits come from can help us more easily identify them in the present. Number 3, I feel like I've been here before. With some reflection time, you can identify the cause and effect cycle that leads you to undermine your own progress. You might need help with this. I know I certainly did. Journaling, supportive friends, therapy, etc. It's called a blind spot for a reason. Now, for the above examples, I'm worried about my relationships being damaged as a result of my success, which is why when I'm on the brink of a win, I tend to find someone who will be harmed by my success and lead them into a no-win scenario where me succeeding will definitely cause harm. That means I get to do the noble thing, put other people first, even though I end up giving up on my dream and then resenting the person that I gave up that dream for, even though they never asked me to. And that resentment is actually the thing that damages the relationships instead of succeeding. Now, this is just my cause and effect cycle. I can't tell you exactly how it works for you. You're gonna have to do the work of self-reflection and figuring it out. Number 4, who the hell do you think you are? Self-sabotage gains momentum when you don't have a very strong sense of self. And by that I mean a solid understanding of who you believe you are. If you don't have a strong sense of what you want, you and everyone else will talk you into anything, which means any progress that you make in any direction is suddenly up for debate because it's not anchored in anything real for you. For some of you, this might sound ridiculous because it's very easy for you to identify what you want. That's great. I'm happy for you. There are many, many people in this world who have a very difficult time with this. If you struggle with knowing what you want, a great place to start is something very low stakes. What kind of music do you like? What's your favorite color? Do you prefer a big, thick, heavy blanket when you sleep, or do you want a nice, lightweight sheet? But having a preference matters, and figuring out what that preference is will compound over time. That little fleck of truth about who you are will grow. So take a second and think about the collection of things that are kind of non-negotiable for your heart. What makes you flutter? Number 5, one of the greatest rules on the internet: don't be a dick to children. This is a pretty widely accepted concept, right? No matter who you are or how old you are, there is a small part of you that is still a small, scared child. You can argue with me all you want, you can deny it if you want to, but it's there. And if you've lived on planet Earth for 25 whole seconds, you will know that scared kids are 2 things: loud and irrational. I feel like I don't need to expand too much on the loud half of this. They'll scream and cry and shout and bang things and run around and make noise. But the other part of it is that they're irrational. Kid could be standing in a huge wide open room right next to a big scary spider that he's terrified of. There's a very simple solution. He could walk into another room. You know what that kid's gonna do? They're just gonna stand there and scream, because kids are irrational when they are afraid. So here's the deal. If you're self-sabotaging, there's a very good chance that you're letting the scared little kid part of you have way too much control. And what's funny is, just like all kids, that part of you doesn't really want to be in charge. They want a solution, a hug, or a puppy. With any other kid, you would walk over there, hold their hand, scoop them up, deal with the spider, and it would be okay. But with you, it's a lot harder. Humans tend to be very hard on ourselves. We get impatient, we lose compassion, we start saying mean things. That's why I saved this as the last and probably most important step. Don't be a dick to kids, particularly you. Show that scared kid some compassion, use your kind words, and then take the steering wheel back. If self-sabotage is undermining your targets, I would love to have an ongoing conversation about this. Leave me a comment or shoot me an email. My email address is in the description. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to support my channel, please like, share, subscribe, comments, ring the bell. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you next week. Bye! Oh good, my mic is on. I thought my mic wasn't on. Water break. Cool. Garbage truck. Cool, 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 cool. With some time for reflection, you can get a handle on the rhythms that cause you to blah, 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 blah. Right, cause and effect cycle is what I wrote down. I should stick with what I wrote down. With some time for reflection, you can identify. Seriously, dog?